Welcome Strategy About Gamers to another GBHL YouTube channel video. You're here with your host GBHL James, and as you can see I'm on my own, and that's because what Jamie and I have decided is for our tournament reviews going forward, instead of you guys having one big long video which has got both of us invested in that video, and obviously both taking up that time when we could be making battle reports and more battle companies for you guys, we decided to do the tournament reviews separately. So I'm pretty sure Jamie will say something like that we've fallen out. We didn't like each other in the first place, so no way of falling out there. So I'm going to be reviewing my experience of my first ever official Games Workshop tournament at Throne of Skulls. Now before I do this, as you can see, I am not wearing my GBHL channel t-shirt. That's because it's prized and it is in the wash. But you guys, if you want to support your Hobbit hobby and you want to help us improve this channel, get better recording equipment, we've got tons of things we want to do. We do need to sell more than the 12 t-shirts that it's looking like we're going to sell at the moment. So if you have not sent an email to ilovewargaming@gmail.com to support your Hobbit hobby and buy a limited edition GBHL t-shirt, remember, this isn't some way of us making loads of money. This is a way of us getting better equipment and microphones and maybe some better lighting and spare batteries and better editing software, just so we can improve the quality of what we're giving on the channel. So if you haven't got a t-shirt yet, or you haven't ordered a t-shirt yet, make sure you get on that. So I am reviewing Throne of Skulls, and I have to say I was very, very excited for this event. It's been built up quite a lot by a lot of the guys in the community who've been before, and even Jamie was saying, despite how amazing Stockport was, our tournament in April, the Desolation of Stockport, he said that the Throne of Skulls was the one that people should attend, and I could see why he was saying that before I went, because we want to show Games Workshop that this is a well supported hobby. And before we even got to Nottingham, there was a huge buzz on the GBHL Facebook page, on the forums. It seemed that the tickets were getting sold out time and time again, that Nick Baton, one of the event organisers, he was having to constantly reallocate tickets, so there was more on sale, and that's got to be a good thing, a really, really good thing. It really sends a message out that we are supporting our Hobbit hobby. So if you couldn't make it to Throne of Skulls this year, I'm going to say it now, and I'll tell you why throughout this review. You need to get on it next year, guys. You need to get on it. So we saw the rules pack. We saw that it was going to be 7 games. They changed it from being 1,000 points, which they've done in the past, of good and evil, to make it 600 points. And that's a fantastic thing. I mean, I was saying this when I was trying to get into the hobby and thinking about getting involved in the tournament scene, was that 2 armies, good and evil, of such a high points cost is a really, really, really hard entry level to the hobby. And so 600 points seemed like they've been listening to the community about what would be best for this event. And I think it is one of the primary reasons why it was so well attended, because it was incredibly accessible for new players. Now if I'm sweating throughout this, it's because it is absolutely scorching outside. I've just got out of the shower. I've actually just got back from the East Grinstead tournament, which was yesterday, so I've just been lounging around in my lounge pants. So you just have to excuse me if I'm wrung wet through at the end. I've got my windows open, but there's nothing I can do in here. So it was a 600 point tournament, and they were going to be doing the games on the first 4 games were going to be from the source books and the old rule books, and they were going to be random, so they were going to roll a dice to see which scenario. So you had no idea which scenarios you're going to be playing on the first day, and then on the second day you were going to be playing the 3 Desolation of Smaug sourcebook scenarios. So that's rescue, blockade and seize the prize. But you'd only have one chance to be attacker or defender in each. And one of the really unique things about Throne of Skulls is it's random opponents. So not like the indie tournaments where it's Swiss ranked, so if you're doing quite well you move up and you're probably going to play someone quite well and who's doing quite well and get knocked back down or go back up, might play someone harder or play someone easier. This is a completely random event. Now at such a large event of 90 people, I think it was 80 to 90 people turned up for this. I thought that this was great because one of my favourite things about the hobby, I mean, being competitive is one thing, but the best thing about being part of the Hobbit hobby is the community, and to get the opportunity to meet so many different players and play against so many different players and armies that you wouldn't normally play against. That is definitely one of the best things about this event. So during this tournament review, I'm going to talk about my journey, my company, what we did on the night. We're going to talk about my army. I'm going to try and talk about my games. It's been a little while. It's been about a month now, so I'm going to do my best to remember. I haven't got any notes with me, but I'm going to do my absolute best. So what I recommend for this video, if you're not doing it already, get your paints out, get some models out, and try and get through some of that painting backlog. I know that you've got things to paint, and just make yourself a brew and sit back and get ready for this. So it was 600 points. Now, I'd not played at 600 points before. We tend to play 500 points on the channel, and I've got my 500 points all mounted Rohan list. But when you start taking it up that extra 100 points, it becomes quite tough, because even when you're taking Eowyn, and you know, she's the cheapest hero that can lead troops for Rohan, you're only going to get a few more riders really on top of that, and it's not really worth it to keep doing the all mounted when you get to 600. It's different factions have got different sort of ranges. Damien's talked about this before when talking about Isengard and the and his lists. He tends to take sort of feral based lists, and he was talking about how, you know, between, you know, let's say the 300 and 400 points, they're okay because they've got some good sort of cheap heroes. But when you sort of go between 400 and 600, they struggle because their mid-level heroes aren't amazing. But then when you start going up to 700 plus, because they can bring in Saruman and Grima, that then they become incredibly competitive again. And I think this is the case with all mounted Rohan. I think that they've got a very sort of small bracket of where, or a couple of small brackets of where it works. It can work right in the middle of that mid-range. If you start going smaller, then you've either got to go quite skirmishy to keep the numbers, or you've got to go really elite. But then of course it's quite a fragile force. And then when you start going up high again, then it becomes doable again, because you can get your numbers back in. So with 600 I was in a bit of a predicament, and so what I decided to do was I decided to actually bring some infantry. So I'm going to show you what I brought now. So leading my force was my trusty Éomer, Knight of the Pelennor. And of course I love taking this guy because he is the Rohan hero. He is the beast. He's got such killing power, you know. He's 4 attacks on the charge, strength 5 if he's charging, he's got 8 dice to kill on the knockdown. The armoured horse means he's not getting knocked off it too easy against strength 2 bows and the such like. He's the survivable dude. It's a little bit more difficult having him as your leader. You've got to have him as your leader because he's got his 3s in the right places, but you want him to be kicking bum as well. So he's a must really, in my opinion, for your leader for all mounted Rohan. And he was going to be leading 3 of these guys, my favourite unit in the game, Sons of Ale, in his warband, plus 3 Westfold Red Shields. So you're getting the bows in there and you're getting the fight 4, and that fight 4 is so important. And the reason I can take Westfold Red Shields is because my second warband was Erkenbrand, and of course that +2 Courage Horn. He's defense 7 himself, and the ability to upgrade the riders to fight 4, absolutely vital. He had 2 Sons of Ale instead of the 3 that Éomer had. He also had a Royal Guard mounted, but with no throwing spears. And he also had 3 of the Westfold Red Shield. Now, although I'm showing one with a sword, all of the Westfold Red Shields that I fielded had axes, and that's because defense 5, you know, you might as well just go for it and hope to kill if you win in a fight. So had that as my cavalry contingents. That was actually 12 models. That's less cavalry than what I take when I'm doing my well, that's 12 basic troops that are cavalry, and that's less than what I take when I do my 500 points on Mounted Rohan. So then the third hero choice, it was pretty straightforward to me. It had to be Eowyn. She's your might caddy. So although she's not doing loads in combat, she's not a combat beast or anything, she's giving that extra cheap might. And this is the gorgeous Eowyn as painted by Kev Lawrence of Shadow and Flame. It's absolutely stunning. I love this model. And I love her in the game as well. It just fits in perfectly with my force. Now she was actually bringing, along with her, 7 of these guys. Rohan Royal Guard on foot. Now, one thing that I have struggled with in the past when playing through the scenarios that are written out for us for Lord of the Rings is for numbers when it comes to objective-based games. Holding ground in particular, and just like in real life, cavalry, although it's quite good at taking ground and smashing things and skirmishing and going and grabbing objectives, etc., when it comes to holding ground and that slugfest, you know, each one of your models is worth so much more, you know, when you lose it. So you need something that can hold ground, and this is why I brought these guys. They're defense 6, they're bodyguards, they're not going to be running away unless your leader gets killed, which means they're going to be really good at holding objectives. Now my plan with these guys, these 7 that I had with me, was also to bring along a Royal Guard with banner, and I put him on a cavalry base. The reason I put him on a cavalry base is 1, then he could make his way to wherever I wanted him. 2, if to the death came up, he can get away from stuff reasonably easy. He can do a runner if he needs to, and be where he needs to be on the battlefield. And what his job was to effectively aid the shield wall in winning the fights. Now, my theory was, and I chatted about this with Kieran before and such like, is that with the Rohan, if you're bringing a mixture of the cavalry and the infantry, really your infantry are there to not to kill stuff, they're there to hold stuff in place, and you have to really play them like a Saxon or Viking shield wall. So you shield with your Rohan Royal Guard, you've got the banner behind, and all of a sudden you've effectively got 3 dice at fight 4 to try and win, and if you lose, you're defense 6, so it's not going to be easy to take down that wall, and that's going to hold stuff in place while your cavalry does what cavalry does best, and that is smash stuff up. Now what I also had, and it was a tough decision to do this, but in that warband, and I have to thank George Perkins and Alistair King, because I wrote them in on Friday. I just didn't get a chance on the Thursday or on the Wednesday when I was supposed to be doing painting because of things I had to help my fiance with. But I decided to go with Outriders on foot. Those guys helped me paint these up on Warhammer World on the Friday night, so thank you. And usually I would have these guys mounted. I love these models, they're great, aren't they? Usually I would have these mounted so they can sort of get round and they can pick off bits of the line that they want to. They can avoid enemy archer fire. And they can focus on parts of the line that they need to, and also go out and grab objectives. But of course I couldn't pay for the horses, so these guys were just lending that bow fire for this. So effectively I had a warband which was designed for the winning of the scenarios, really, the winning of the old scenarios. So it put me in a better position for things like hold ground, high ground, for even the likes of domination, for being able to get things on objectives that aren't going to run away, for reconnoitre, even for getting up the numbers, and the such like, and to the death obviously for the banner. So that was almost that's my game winning warband. So what I want you to do is let me know what you think about that 600 point army, and maybe now leave a comment about whether you thought that was a good decision to do for 600 points. Do you think I'm a traitor for abandoning or Mounted Rohan, or was it a good choice to bring along that infantry warband? Comment below now, and then at the end of the review you'll be able to tell me whether whether you were right or whether I was right to do that. So we travelled up. We got taken by Steve on the Friday. He was a bit late, got lost trying to find Jamie, and Kieran had been working a night shift as well, so he was pretty shattered. As was I have to say. I was up very, very, very late because I had to make a video CV for my fiancée. She turned around to me at 10 o'clock at night when she got back from work, and she was like, "You know this generation shift thing I'm going for?" I was like, "No." She said, "Well, I've got to make a video CV for it." She said, "Can you help me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, when does it need to be done by? She said, "Tomorrow morning." So I was up until 4 in the morning making that video for her. So I was pretty tired. Kieran had done a night shift. He came a bit late. Everybody turned out, and we made our journey. We were hoping to make it for Throne of Laurels, which was just going to be some relaxed sort of tournament-style games that Damien O'Byrne had arranged before the Middle-earth's Deadliest Warbands knockout tournament that Jamie was going to be running. Unfortunately, we didn't quite make it in time for that, but we got ourselves some food, and my initial impressions of Warhammer World. Well, first up, I mean, there's a lot of roadworks going on around there at the moment, so I suggest that if you've not been, that you give yourself plenty of time, because your sat-nav will not take you the right way. So we approached, and it's on like an industrial estate, and there are various bits to it, like the offices, and you've got the gaming hall, etc. And came in, and there's like giant space marines and stuff like that. There's a full-size Lurtz as you walk in, and I have to say, I've never been before. I was utterly impressed. I have to say, like, I would never consider myself like, I've not been into wargaming before doing Lord of the Rings, and that's only relatively recently. But I was looking around and looking at all of like the old vintage, like 40k stuff, all the vintage miniatures that they did as I was walking up the stairs towards the gaming hall, and it was fascinating. I found it really interesting, and was pretty blown away when I opened the door into the gaming hall, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. But that's not the best thing about it. It's been designed so it looks like you're wargaming in the middle of a castle. Now, there's a shop on your left as you go in. I didn't go in the shop, stayed well away. The weekend was already costing me far too much. And then you've just got rows and rows and rows and rows of tables. I think absolutely rows. You easily fit in, I don't know, what must be their capacity? 120? Maybe more? People playing games. So that was really good. That was really good. Now, all of the boards are Realm of Battle boards, and most of the terrain was either some variation of Citadel Woods or Osgiliath Ruins. So reasonably samey, but done to enough of a standard that it was still interesting. It was still good enough, I think, for tournament play. Best bit by far was the Bugman's Bar. Now, the wargaming hobby has actually started to become a real kind of social thing for myself. I'm going there and catching up having a drink. Now, I don't drink anymore, not since leaving the army. Well, after leaving the army, I've blown off steam periods. Ever since I've been involved in fitness, I don't really drink anymore. It really isn't the be all and end all, but I do enjoy having a beer with the guys when we meet up for these tournaments. And Bugman's Bar was brilliant. Now, what was best about it was that I actually played the Bugman's Bar game when we went to Damien's when we were going to a previous tournament. And Bugman's Bar is just like the board game, and it was there on sale. It's that you can only buy it there, and I was gonna get it and I completely forgot. It's only £20 for this board game, and I would recommend it for some silly fun. If people don't need to be into war games to play this Bugman's Bar board game. It's just a fun, silly board game, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. So it's got all these long benches, and the bar was great, the beer was fantastic, the food that you were buying from the bar was really good, not particularly healthy choices, but if it's not what you're doing all the time, it's not a problem. So that was great. Like I said, I managed to rope in George and Alistair to come do some painting. And it was also really good. I mean, I know that a lot of people can be quite nervous when they turn up to these tournaments. You know, they think, well, I don't know people. They might see the likes of, you know, Jamie and myself, or other members of the community who have met before. You know, and we're all obviously confident and we're chatting to each other. Don't be afraid to come over and say hello. You know, there were a lot of guys who sort of, you could tell that they weren't sure whether to come and say hello. They sort of sat on benches kind of looking over and everything. You just come over, and there was a few times where, like, you know, I was like, oh, you're right, pal, like, I recognise you from such and such, come on, you know, come sit here, and, you know, that's what the community should be about. So on the Friday night, Steve had got sorted me out some accommodation. I was sleeping with Steve. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a twin bedroom, so we were sharing a double bed. We went back to the hotel. Damien and Tom were staying there. There were a couple of other guys there who were really nice. We ended up playing this card game, which was absurd, but really, really good fun, with some other chaps that we not met before. We had Paul and Sam. That were really, really nice guys, and decided, based on our experience at Mansfield last time, where we got absolutely hammered on the Friday night and were not in a good way on the Saturday, that we would get a reasonably early-ish night without being too heavy, and that was a good decision. So I'm going to talk about my games now and who I played. So it's completely random first day. You play random opponents, and it's random scenarios from the sourcebooks. So they rolled for the first scenario, which I believe it was one of my least favourites. It was High Ground. It was High Ground. I'm sure it was High Ground. High Ground or Hold Ground. I think it was High Ground. So it's High Ground, not one of my favourites. Now, I actually got drawn against Sam Page, but he was getting some breakfast. So because he was getting some breakfast and running a little bit late coming into the hall, I actually got to swap. Now, I played Sam before, and I would love to play Sam. I love him to bits. I think he's a great guy. There's a little bit of me that's pleased that I didn't play him when I saw his force and knew that it was High Ground, where effectively the problem for the Rohan is your opponent, if they're infantry based, are probably going to start on the objective, and if you try and start on the objective, then you're going to lose all your bonuses for the cavalry. So you have to effectively wrestle the objective from your opponent, which is tougher than holding the objective and trying to stall your opponent from getting on there, in my opinion. So I actually had to play another guy who I've not met before, and his name was Jack. Now, if I remember rightly, Jack had a Haradrim force. I'm sure he had some Black Numenorians, he had some Corsair Reavers, he also had some Corsairs with spears. I think maybe he had some Watchers of Karna as well. It was that kind of force. And again, he actually deployed quite close to the objective, and I had to kind of hold back a little bit. And my goal really was, you know, try and get off those, try and pick off some. Oh, what did he have? Did he have a Wraith? I think he had the Witch King. Did he have a Mordor and Harad force? I'm sorry for my lack of preparation. This is my notes. By the way, that was one of the really cool things about Throne of Schools. They do give you a very cool rules pack, like so, and I really like their record sheet, which is something that I would like to do for Desolation of Stockport 2.0 at the end of September. If you're not booked on it, get on it. Yeah, I think he might have had some Mordor as well. In fact, he definitely did. He had Morannons and he had Orcs, because he had the Witch King with him. And my goal really was to try and pick off some of the high fight things, like the Reavers, the softer stuff. Surround, get into position, try and sort of overwhelm one area, whilst my shield wall kind of moved up to try and take that centre ground. And that kind of worked. He moved over the objective, he came out to meet me, stop me from really sort of getting there, and I kind of put my skirmishy stuff around the left. So yeah, he had things there to be careful, but then I kind of focused on coming up the middle and more importantly the right hand side. So I got the charge in on the right hand side after he had priority and already moved, and I got Aemerin and a couple of Sons of Ale on one. I think it might have been a Black Numenorian. The heroic combated into his leader, which was the Witch King. Managed to kill the Witch King really early on, and effectively destroy that right flank, which put me in a really good position. And it, as we were coming up to time, you know, when we knew that we were coming up to that point where it would be, you know, finish the turn that you're on, I effectively jumped as much as I could onto the objective, and it was reasonably close in other areas of the battlefield. But Jack was a great guy who's really chilled out. I hope that he's going to come and get involved in some of the independent tournaments. He had a bit of bad luck in the game, but really nice to play someone who I've not played before. So then I had my second game, and I was playing against a guy called Paul Merritt, I believe, and he was one of the guys who showed us this card game the night before in the hotel that Steve had sorted for us. Really nice guy. Like, really like this dude. I think that they've only been going to like the likes of Throne of Skulls, and I think they're involved in like other war games. But I really hope after this tournament that these guys get on the independent tournament scenes. This is Paul Merritt and Sam McGuinness, because they're top blokes and they fit right in with the community. Really kind of positive guys, play in the right kind of spirit of the game. And again, the scenario was rolled, and this time it was Lords of Battle. And of course, Lords of Battle is one of my favourite scenarios. However, the night before, the Friday, I attempted to film a Get Buff Bat Rep. 600 points, so technically not a Get Buff Bat Rep, because it's not the all-mounted Rohan at 500, but against Quinn Duggan. Now, Quinn Duggan is like 10, are you, Quinn? How old are you? He'd been calling me out for a game for a while. I thought, right, yeah, let's take him down. Get Buff Bat Rep, Lords of Battle. And he had like Boromir, the twins, Legolas, Gimli, I think. And for obviously for the camera, I decided, well, I'm not going to sit back and shoot. And got to be out of Warhammer World for 10 or whatever it was, half 10. So I'll just go for it and we'll have a scrap. And against Boromir of the White Tower, that's not a good idea. Now, unfortunately, my camera died halfway through what was on camera. People would go, oh, you did it on purpose, and Quinn was like, oh, convenient that your camera died. Listen, I hold my hands up. He beat me, and he beat me by quite a bit. What did he beat me? When did he beat me by? I can't remember. Maybe 9, 10, 9. I can't remember. I think Steve's put it up on the me doing press-ups on the Great British Hobbit League Facebook page. But I was devastated because the lighting was great in Warhammer World. Perfect conditions for filming. Like really good filming conditions. And unfortunately my phone died and I couldn't film anymore. So he beat me at Lords of Battle. So going into Lords of Battle I was a little bit nervous, and then I saw what Paul had brought, and Paul had brought dwarves. Now I have to say, his dwarven army was absolutely delicious. These are Durin's folk dwarves. They had this blue paint scheme. He is a fantastic painter. They were beautiful. Lots of Khazad-guard, lots of dwarves with shield, lots of Iron Guard, Gimli, Gimli and Dane, I think were his main guys. Did he have Floy in there as well? I think he had Floy. And he set up, for this Lords of Battle game, there was like a little fenced area. So imagine like a field that had been fenced, and it had like one opening in the corner. And he effectively set up a dwarven block, a square in that. So if we'd have been playing high ground, or even hold ground, that'd have been really tough for me. Like really tough to try and wrestle the dwarves off that. But I thought, right, well, it's this Lords of Battle, I know what to do. And the goal was effectively to kill a soft target, and then he would have to chase the game. So you know that you only need 6s when you're shooting at like Iron Guard. So that was going to be the goal. So we shook hands, started the game. I managed to kill the Iron Guard. I was sort of circling round, but not really engaging. And we looked at each other, and we kind of knew at that point what kind of game it could end up being. And he just fair play. Like I thought he he got my best sport. I had some great opponents, but Paul got my best sporting vote because he just turned around and he went, I know that you could just now, just not, you're going to circle around me, stuff like that. I said, listen, I said, I'll probably be very careful. I said, but I said, I want a game. He said, well, I'm going to force it to be a game. He said, I could just sit in here and try and be safe, and you could just sit on the outside shooting at me. And he actually sent out of this perfectly sort of defended position, because it would have been stupid for me to charge it. It would have been stupid. So you know, people can call you out for doing things that they perceive to be, you know, boring or whatever. But this is it's a strategy battle game, and you've got to get the kind of the balance. If you're trying to win, you are the general, so you've got to do the things that lend themselves to your force. If your opponent hasn't brought bows to retaliate, then you know you shouldn't be punished for that. For you know, it being put on you that you have to create the impetus. But Paul created the impetus. He sent out a little party of Gimli, and you know, a few Iron Guard and a couple of other bits came out and, like, you know, to chase down. And I thought, this guy deserves a really good game, because he didn't. It wasn't the best strategic thing for him to do. And do you know, if it had been someone who I thought that, you know, they're lulling me into a trap, I thought, maybe if it hadn't been Dwarves, you know, I've got quite a good record against Dwarves, I might have been like, But I thought, no. And I just turned around to him and said, listen, I'm not that kind of person. I said, if at any point you think that this is a boring game, you let me know. I said, because I wouldn't want that to happen. And he sent out Gimli, these Dwarves, and of course, you know, the cavalry could then mob them, get on them, kill them. You know, real good job. It just looked cool, this battlefield. You had these Dwarves in this hard square in the middle. You had this party that had come out swinging. You had the cavalry which had started to surround. And I just thought, I'm pretty confident I'm going to win this now, because he'd sent enough out for it to then swing the balance for me being able to take the middle, but not enough out there to be a problem for me dealing with them when they came out. So I actually got on my phone, and it completely drained all my data. If you've seen the film Zulu, you know the men of Harlech, can you see them? Can you see their spear points gleaming? The song that the South Wales borderers sing to the Zulus in defiance, because it was very much like a defence of Rorke's Drift. And I said this in another video, I've never ever thought of my Rohan as being Zulus, but that's what it was like. You know, you had these defenders, they were being brave, they were coming out. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it, and we went for it. And my Rohan Royal Guard came up to the wall, started fighting over the wall. The cavalry were jumping over around the rear where there'd been holes made in a line where he sort of rushed out, and it was just an absolutely brilliant battle. We had tons of laughs. You know, I thought he was a great guy. Enjoyed the game muchly. It was quite a big win for me in the end, but a great game, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, 2 wins. I was absolutely made up. So I believe then we had lunch. Maybe we had lunch before that. I can't remember, or dinner, whichever it was. And it was just like a canteen food. It was okay. Definitely not as good as the food from the bar. Like, definitely not. But it was pretty good considering it was included in the price. And then I went on to my 3rd game. Now my 3rd game was against a guy called Wayne, and he was in my category, Kingdoms of Men. So the way that Throne of Skulls works is that you instead of getting ranked for how many sort of tournament points you're getting, it's actually to do with what faction category you go into. So if you've got a pure Kingdoms of Men force, you go into Kingdoms of Men, and then your score is worked out on how much higher than the average of your category you get is your score at the end. So it works out quite good if you can play against other people from your category and beat them. You know, that's your goal. And he had a beautiful Dol Amroth army, and I love fiefdoms. It just looks so cool. It looks so cool. Wayne was a good guy. He wasn't doing very well. He not in our game, but in previous games, apparently his dice had abandoned him, and the game got rolled. And again, I think another one that I don't particularly do well at usually was hold ground. But I have I'm learning how to win these games and the scenarios now. And he had lots of Diamond pike. Oh no, he didn't have any pikemen. No, he had loads of Diamond men at arms on foot, and then he had the Swan Knights. He had Imrahil, and he had 2 Diamond captains. Now his Diamond Knights and one lot came on at one point. I got to choose the other, which I got as far away from everything as possible. All of mine came on at the same point, and sort of made sure that I took the middle point as quick as possible, and then sent my cavalry out to just go and deal with Imrahil and the Swan Knights. I have to say, Paul Wayne's dice rolling was absolutely atrocious, and it was a very, very good win for the Rohan. Very, very good. So towards the end of the game, he'd started to come up towards the middle, but the Royal Guard, they really were sort of the men of the tournament for me, and it's really sort of made me think about Rohan even, think about my Rohan lists even more, because on foot, shielding, with the banner behind, it's a defense 6, fight 4, it's a tough nut to crack. The strength 3, they're not going to be killing loads of these sort of strength 6 upward stuff. But if they can hold stuff in place for your Sons of Vale and your charging cavalry models who are getting loads of dice to kill and are piercing striking things, then they're doing okay. And they did their job and they held that ground, and again it was a really good victory, and I have to say I was made up to get 3 wins. And then I went into the final game of the day, and that was against a guy called Craig Spooner. Now he actually knows Sam Page. I think he's a manager of a Games Workshop shop. Must be mid Sussex way somewhere. Quite surprised he's not actually been involved in the Hobbit tournament before. And this game was domination. Rolled for domination. I like domination. Really, really good. And he had a Hunter Orc army, and it had Bolg, who I've never come up against before, who is an absolute beast, by the way. Absolute beast. Loads of Hunter Orcs, Thimble, I think he had Narzug. And the objectives were all quite far away from each other, which I was quite happy about. So I thought, right, I'm good. Well, domination, your goal really is to wrestle for 3 and make your opponent, try and hold 2, wrestle for 1 between, and then force your opponent to chase the game a little bit. And he came at me. Now he did do one thing. He did put part of his army, like Thimble and a bunch of the Wild Riders, on the far side to hold one of the objectives over there. He didn't actually put one on the other, which I was quite surprised about. But he was going to send something over there later in the game so that he would have 2. And then there were some ruins in the middle that were near the middle objective, and he actually put some of his Hunter Orcs on foot in there. But then actually came out to meet me with the rest. A couple that were in some trees near one objective, and we came and had a fight. So I knew, two attack models are a bane of cavalry, especially strength 4. All of a sudden Sons of Vale are dying reasonably easy if they're losing the fight. Same with the Royal Guard. Bolg was an absolute tank. But again, a couple of key heroic combats to jump in on him and try and kill him off in one go really, really worked. The main problem for his Hunter Orcs was that after I had broken him, which was reasonably quick because they die quite quickly, I killed all of his Hunter Orcs on one objective just with shooting, which was unbelievable, and then just sent something up to go and hold that. So I had 2, he had the one in the middle, he had one in a far corner, and then one right on his far side of the board. But the moment he broke, pretty much everything was running away. Like, everything was running away. And then I managed to get on that 3rd objective, and the game ended. Absolutely loved playing this guy. Loved playing him. Would love to play him again. Really, 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 really good guy. And actually, for someone who was in Hobbit Evil, which was a category which didn't do so well, he won his category, so fair play to him. Big rounds of applause to Craig Spooner. Really good. Really enjoyed playing him, and I hope I get to play him again in the future. Really good guy. and I hope he continues to drum up support for the Hobbit in his Games Workshop. So that was it for the day, and I had 4 wins. I was absolutely made up. Like, absolutely made up. So yeah, I think we got something to eat again. I'm sure you get 2 meals when you're there, which is pretty good. Got something to eat again. Went back to the hotel, got ready, was having some drinks with the guys. We did a special unboxing, which we're not sure whether to release on the channel or not, of I won't even say. We did a special unboxing in the pub with Damien, and it revolved around Thomas Handsome Harrison, which was good fun. And then some of those guys decided that they were going to stay in the hotel, and my Uncle Steve, he wanted to go out into Nottingham, and we went out, and we ended up in this place called Rock City, and it was mental. It was mental. We had such a good night, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about the night, but there was a few of us there. There was like Kieran, there was Alistair, there was like an upstairs bit, like I know Jamie and a lot of those lot were up there. It was quite rocky, it was really loud up there, and lots of sort of moshy kind of dancing and everything. We went up there at first and thought we can't even, you know, talk here. There was a bit downstairs which was a bit more sort of cheesy kind of music, so we went down there, could have a chat with each other and have a dance, which was good. And I had a great time. I was getting loads of attention, which made, you know, if my ego couldn't get any bigger, it certainly did that night. Like, there was one bit, and Steve started laughing, and I turned round, and there was like a group of girls behind us, and then this really little skinny lad, you know, he had hair sort of swept over, and he looked a bit gollumy actually, not in a horrible way, but you know, it is a horrible way really, isn't it? And the girl turned around to me, and I thought that she was going to like ask me out or something. I've got a fiance. She's like, just excuse me, I'm just wondering if you were single, because my friend here likes you. And she pointed to the lad. It's like, you know, I said I'm flattered. I said I'm really flattered, but I've actually got a fiance, and I'm straight. I'm sorry. And he was like, well, you know, that's a shame. It just all went off. But of course, it makes you feel good. Doesn't matter whether a guy's asking you out or a girl's asking you out. So I turned around, Steve's cracking up. I was like, what? I said, that's dead nice. He said, it's not that. He said, I seen, as soon as you came walking over, they clocked you. And he turned around and pointed at me and said, he's definitely gay. So I don't know, maybe it was me t-shirt or something. But I had a fantastic night. I had loads and loads of dancing. I was getting my groove on, doing loads of like dirty dancing stuff. I had a fantastic night with Steve. When we came out of the club, Alistair, who was with us, was chatting to some girl, and a boyfriend kicked off on him, and you know, me and Steve scared him off. Me and Steve didn't end up getting back until like 5 in the morning. And we were having a McDonald's. It's horrendous, isn't it? McDonald's outside the hotel in daylight at 5 in the morning. And we thought this was a bad idea. So we got a couple of hours kip, and we were back in Warhammer World for day 2. And I have to say, there were a lot of other people. There were people who didn't turn up because of the night out they'd had on Saturday, and there were people turning up drunk, including your GBHL channel host, GBHL Jamie. He was still gone. But you know, everyone's there blowing off steam, and seeing friends that it has become like that. You're seeing friends that you don't get to see all the time. So it's like once a month you're getting together. And it becomes that little bit more special. So that was really cool. So then the second day we were going to be playing the Desolation of Schmaug scenarios, and the first one I was playing against a guy called Josh, and I think he was a friend of Jack, who I played in the first game. Really, really, really nice guy. He'd actually brought some Dwimmerlake filth. I'm trying to remember what else he had. Dwimmerlake, he has just some Mordor stuff, I think. Or did he have to Dwimmerlake some Mordor stuff, and then he had something else that was fighting against me? Did he have Hunter Orcs? I can't remember. I'm really sorry. Really, really sorry. And we were playing the rescue game. Now remember, the Desolation of Schmaug scenarios are not balanced, so it really does come down to the roll to see who is attacker and who is defender. So we roll, and I get to choose. And I immediately said, who is your leader? And his leader was the Dwimmerlake, and the Dwimmer Lake only had like 4 or 5, or maybe more, maybe about 6 or 7 Moranums with him. And he sets up in the middle. My army sets up 6 inches from him. Yeah, exactly. And the rest of his army has to set up another 6 back from that. And the attacker gets priority. And I was just like, yeah, I'll be the attacker. Because the Dwimmer Lake, no might. Just, the guy had lost the game because of the scenario, because I won the role to choose who got what. If it had been the other way around, it would have been a much tougher game, because I'd have had to break him. I'm pretty confident I'd have got Aimer away, and he wouldn't have got that. But it could have been a draw. And I had to try and break him. So I literally just sent everything in. Got loads on the Moran. Like all of my Sons of Ale got in. All of my heroes got in, like Eowyn, Erkenbrand, Aemma, heroic combating into the Dwimmer Lake. You know, one of them heroic striking before they got there. You know, to make sure that I had the higher fight value than fight 5, and just killed him in one go. And that was pretty much the game won straight away. So I felt a little bit sorry for him, but really nice guy. We carried on having a good fight afterwards, like a good scrap. And to be fair, he was giving me a lot of problems, chopping through me quite a bit. And then the game ended, and I got 5 wins. I was like, wow! So first experience of a Throne of Skulls event, and I was all over it. It was made up, brilliant. So then it goes into game 6, and this one was going to be the blockade, and this is the one where you either got to get your hero off the opposing board, or you've got to try and stop the enemy, or kill the enemy leader. And I got drawn, and I was made up for 2 reasons. I got drawn against Tom Macklin. I love this guy. If you've met him, you know why. He's just an outstanding chap. I would love to be able to say he's a good friend, I would say, from the hobby point of view, very good friend. I got drawn against him, so I was really pleased, because I knew I was going to have a really fun game, because I just love the banter. You know, he gets involved in the banter wagon, we have a good time. I've never played him competitively before. He's featured in a Get Buff Bat Rep, and he also brings dwarves. And I was like, yes! So I was made up by that, and again I won the role, and I thought, right, okay, well, it's easier for me to get my leader off than it is to, kill his leader. And he had loads of Khazad Guard and the Iron Guard and the usual stuff, and in fact it was quite interesting. There was JT was on the table next to us, and he'd already played against his opponent, and he asked me if I would swap, and I was like, nah. I was like, listen, I really want to play Tom, and I've got a good chance of winning this. I'm doing quite well in my category, so let's do it. So I was like, really sorry, I really want to play Tom. And we did, and to be fair, he did what he should do. He just lined up across the back of the board, moved up, but everything in a line, and just tried to respond to, without coming too far up, just tried to respond to which way I was sending Aemma. And I effectively, was sending my infantry down the middle, Aemma coming down one side with one lot of infantry, and then Eowyn peeled off with Erkenbrand's warband down the right hand side. And on the right hand side was where I attacked and started doing the damage. On the left hand side I was skirmishing, trying to create holes in the line. That's where my Aemma was. So he was moving stuff over from where the fight was going on to respond to where Aemma was, and of course Aemma just did, little shuffle and sidestep, went round the right flank, battles here, everyone's moving towards Aemma, I'm killing the stuff there, and he just went round the back, right, marched off the board, and won the game. And a surprisingly tense affair, but in like a fun way. And it wasn't as straightforward as it probably sounds. And we decided to play on. And it was just great fun, just really, really good fun. I love playing that guy. If you have the pleasure of playing Tom Macklin, then he will almost certainly be in contention for your best game vote every time. I pretty much guarantee that. So make sure you meet him at an indie tournament soon. So with that, I had 6 wins. wins. And I knew at this point I was leading my category. Now, a couple of the Kingdoms of Men guys were teasing me, telling me that they were on 5 wins and a loss. And then an interesting thing happened. The events team was saying that you could grudge people in your last game. Now, I thought that this was a bit stupid. Like, I understand a grudge match in the first game, brilliant. But in your last game, when so much is at stake, for you to be able to call someone out when you think you've got, let's be cynical about this. There are going to be players who are going to pick people they think they're going to, that they might be able to beat. And the last game was Seize the Prize as well. And we had, Jamie and I, we had Ed Ball called me out straight away. Now he had Fell Beasts and he had Shelob. And I was like, why would I do such a thing? Because it's an auto win for Ed. At Seize the Prize, he's going to win, and then I throw away my first ever throwing of skulls of probably winning my category by winning all of my games, and having a good chance at winning the whole event, because depending on how people in my category had got on. Now in hindsight, what I should have done is actually called out the person who was second in my category. He had a Doan force and he was doing really well. He'd won 5 games. I believe he woke up in hospital on the Sunday morning, and they said, right, you've got to wait for the consultant. And he was like, no, I've got to go, I've got to be somewhere. And he left the hospital. That's what I heard. And I was thinking maybe I should have called him out and lower my faction average. You can see why that's the issue with being able to call people out on the last game, because from a cynical point of view, you're going to be able to sort of pick and choose. So anyway, being able to grudge people, I actually decided to challenge Josh Meads. Now he was in the Fallen Realms category. The reason I challenged Josh Meads is because we've been at a few tournaments together now and we've never played, and I love this guy. He's the one who put me up for Mansfield the first time when he didn't know me. He was a great host. I love it. We had he was out with us on the Saturday night at Rock City. He was having a good time. He was copping off and all sorts. I thought, yeah, really want to play him. In hindsight, knowing the category that he was in, I would probably play to the meta and not challenge someone from another category, especially another category that had so many players and therefore a potential to have a lot of people who are doing badly, because you are effectively increasing the chance of the leader of that category winning. So you can see how there's like a meta involved. There's like a strategy that's going on outside of the game itself. But I really wanted to play him. Now he had an Isengard, like a scout force, like lots of wargs. You had like Sharku on warg and stuff like that. And I thought, right, Seize the Prize. This is a good one for Rohan, because you Heroic March. Your Sons of Ale are going 17 inches, so you can go over the prize, hold up while you dig it up. So, and the plan is I dismounted. This is what I did. I did that. I heroic heroic marched, sent everything over the prize. Effectively, you're not doing it because you're going to get charged, and cavalry doesn't do too well when it has been charged. But because you're not having to worry about being broken or anything like that, you just throwing stuff up there to stop them from getting to the prize while you try and dig it up and then run the hell away with it. And I got Erkenbrand to the prize, dismounted Erkenbrand to try and dig it up, because of course he's not going to go down easy. If he does get the prize, digging it up, and then Aemma in base contact with him, and then another rider in base contact with Aemma, just in case Aemma gets shot off his horse or something like that. And Erkenbrand did manage to dig it up. However, in a game that should have been straightforward, Josh Meads made sure it wasn't, because he charged in and a lot of things were going. Well, to be fair, both our dice roll in this game was pretty awful. And I got really worried because he got off a couple of heroic combats. Now there was one key one where he could have effectively heroic combated to get into a position so that if he killed what he heroic combated into, and then Heroic moved the next turn and did things the right way, he could actually get in to Aomer, who had been passed the prize, before Aomer could get off. And if I lost the move off, then all of a sudden it's a messier game than anticipated, and your cavalry aren't in an ideal situation because you've just thrown them forward to fight the fight that they need to fight. So anyway, he calls a Heroic Combat and he calls a Heroic Strike with his 2 heroes. He rolls. He has to use 2 points of might, because I think I got a 6 with the rider. He has to use 2 points of might to win the fight. So he's invested 4 might already in this combat. So he rolls to wound the rider, and he got something like 3 1s and a 2. Now, a little bit of me was jumping up and down for joy inside, because if he'd have killed that rider, got in, killed the next rider in the next slot, won the Heroic move off, he'd have been on me. And that was a really, really key moment. And it was still quite worrying in the next set, even when Aomer was running, because that's a lot of that front rank had crumbled on that right hand side. Again, a good Heroic combat followed by a Heroic move, you can get there. But luckily I did get the prize off, I did win the game. Me and Josh had great fun. It was really, really nice nice playing against him at last, and like really, really nice playing against him at last. And we decided to play on, and he absolutely smashed me. He smashed me, but luckily the win was already in the bag, and another great game. And that was the best thing for me about this event, was getting to play lots of people that I don't get to play week in, week out. Catching up with everybody was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. You know, we had the quiz, for example, on the Saturday night. A bit controversy here. A lot of people have been saying to me on the Friday, have you not been up to the hall, the Warhammer hall where the miniatures are? So on Saturday, after the games, I thought, yeah, I'll go and have a little look. So I went up there with Callum Edams, and we were looking around. I have to say, the museum is really cool. I was even looking at the 40k stuff. I'm not really into 40k or anything, but I was like, this stuff looks cool. So Callum disappears off because he went on the phone. I thought, oh, maybe his girlfriend's rang him or something. Doesn't come back, so I went back down to Bugman's Bar, and everyone's set up for the game. Now, months and months ago, I had been speaking to Tom Harrison and Damien O'Byrne, who had won the quiz the previous 2 years in their team. I was like, well, if you need another person in your team, I said, I've not got a team yet. Well, I could come in. Maybe Jamie could come in. And when I asked Jamie, Jamie was like, no. You know, I've been with Jay. I think I'll stick with the guys I usually quiz with, which is Jay Clare and James Braund and these guys. I came back down, and they had usurped me from my quiz team. I was like, oh right, that's how it is. And they're like, oh well, you know, there's loads of other teams. And I was like, no, it's okay. I'm just going to go and get myself a pint. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make you feel bad. No, don't worry. No. And they're like, oh no, go on. You know, you can still take part in the quiz. And I was like, no. I don't want to, because you guys have just tried to screw me over and exclude me when it was a given that I was included. So I guilted them into letting me back into the team. Now I have to say I didn't contribute a great deal, but that's because I have to say a lot of the questions were either reasonably easy, and you know, whoever's writing it down just get it straight away, or were rules based and actually quite tricky, and I had no idea. In that as well, they do this kind of like roll off. So you have like 2 models that have to fight each other, and people effectively bet which ones are going to win, and depending on the likelihood of like the odds, you either get more points for betting on one or less. So if you bet for something which is obvious, you're going to get less of a return. And I actually had to go up and roll for Lindir versus the Goblin Scribe. The Goblin Scribe was represented by Mr. Sam McGuinness, who ended up getting Best Sporting, so congratulations. He's a really nice guy. He brought loads of Ents and stuff. And I was representing Lindir. Thought, right, I got this. I even got the big red foam dice, and I was like, cheating red dice, boom! Got a 6. Did I wound the Goblin Scribe? No, I didn't. Did Lindy then go on to die to the Goblin Scribe? Yes, he did. Luckily, no one bet on that happening, and as a result, we actually won the quiz. So this is my Heroes of the Green Dragon quiz prize. So even though we had a team of 7, which technically isn't really allowed, that's what we got. So brilliant. I was made up with that, and when it was the award ceremony we had to go up and pick that up, which was brilliant. Great bunch of guys to be in the quiz team with, and then we had the awards. Now, because of how it's worked out, even though you can win all your games and not win your category, because you might not have played the person who's top in your category and they might have more sporting votes than you or whatever else, and you might not win the whole thing because it depends on how well your faction has done. But I thought I've got a good chance here because Kingdoms of Men, doesn't tend to do very, very well. So it came to faction awards. There were loads and loads of other awards. I'm not going to be able to we put the award ceremony up so you'll be able to see who won what. Congratulations to all those guys, whether they won for painting and the hobby side of it or whether they won for the gaming side. Jamie won for his category. He won King on the Lonely Mountain, and of course he owes that to me because I killed off a couple of Free People's armies. And it came to Kings of Men, and Nick Baton even said, "This pains me to say it, but it went to the well, it's not all mounted, but it went to the Rohan!" And I got called up, and I'd won my category, and this is the prize, and that is, I was chuffed to bits. Like that's like a reward for all those people that said to me when I was starting the hobby, and they said Rohan is the worst faction, cavalry especially is awful, it's rubbish, made it work, and I'm doing okay with it, and won my category. I was made up. So then it was going to come down to those category winners, which one was high enough up on the in terms of the average, the faction average, who had the biggest difference between their score and the faction average. I thought, right, I've got a good chance here, let's see what happens. And the winner and the Lord of Middle-earth was not me. It went to James Long of the Fallen Realms, and he did really, really well. He had like a Corsair Reaver with axes. Well done, pal. See where you got that idea from. Watch your Karma smell, like absolute filled the army, and he won it, and it was really, really close. If you, I think did Jay Clare? Oh no, Ed Ball technically came second when it was worked out for league points, and I came third, which was fantastic for my cause in the league because it really sort of boosted me up there, so it put me in 4th place for the league. So as a review, as it were, of the entire event, what did I think about it? Well, the cost for all the food and everything that you get in, included in the ticket price, it's well worth it. The venue is absolutely amazing. If you've not been there, you need to go there. And as well as your Desolation of Stockport tournaments, you need to come and get involved in Throne of Skulls. If that is the one which sends the message, a big message. And the team, the events team, they were even saying this when we were there. Although they can't sort of officially affiliate at all with the channel, there were a couple of sort of whispers of sort of thank yous for the work that we've done, which was nice, which was really, really nice, just to kind of keep doing what you're doing because it is helping. And that's great. Send us some free models. And so yeah, the event was great. Obviously it was nice to get certificates. The random nature of it was brilliant, and as a result, Jamie and I have thought a lot about our next Desolation of Stockport and how we can make it even better and different from some of the other independent tournaments. So expect to see that rules pack soon. The company, I'd like to say thank you to everybody I played against. I didn't have a single bad game. All of my opponents were awesome. I had so much fun playing lots of different armies. I had a fantastic night out on the Saturday. Great company as always, and I just couldn't thank this amazing community enough for making me so welcome into it. You know, since I first went on the One Ring a couple of Novembers ago. And look at me now. Give me Best Faction Award. Absolutely made up. So guys, if you're at Throne of Skulls, you know, let me know how you found it. Make sure you comment below. If you've not been, you're gonna come. If you want to see an independent event which is you know, up there in terms of numbers, come to Desolation of Stockport, because that is at the end of September. If you really want to support your Hobbit hobby, make sure you are attending these independent tournaments. If you want to support the channel, make sure you get yourself those t-shirts soon. This has been your faction winning Rohan, GBHL channel host, GBHL James. Make sure, as always, you comment, like, share and subscribe. Support your Hobbit hobby, and happy strategy battle gaming.